Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Hare Krishna, everyone. So today we have assembled here to read from Srimad Bhagavad-Gita, chapter 15, entitled Yoga of the Supreme Person or Purushottam Yoga. And today's verse is number 12. So we'll recite the verse. Yadadityagatam tejo jagadbhasayate kilam Yachandramasi yachchagnau tattejo vidina mamakam Yadadityagatam tejo jagadbhasayate kilam Yachandramasi yachchagnau tattejo vidimamakam Yad adityagatam tejo jagadbhasayate kilam Yad chandramasi yachchagnau tattejo vidimamakam. Word for word. Yat, that which. Adityagatam, in the sunshine. Tejaha, splendor. Jagat, the whole world. Bhasayate, illuminates. Akilam, entirely. Yat, that which. Chandramasi, in the moon. Yat, that which. Cha, also. Agnau, in the fire. Tat, that. Tejaha, splendor. Vidhi, understand. Mamakam, from me. Translation and purport by His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. The splendor of the sun, which dissipates the darkness of this whole world, comes from me, and the splendor of the moon and the splendor of the fire are also from me. Please repeat. The splendor of the sun, which dissipates the darkness of this whole world, comes from me, and the splendor of the moon and the splendor of the fire are also from me. Purport. The unintelligent cannot understand how things are taking place, but one can begin to be established in knowledge by understanding what the Lord explains here. Everyone sees the sun, moon, fire, and electricity. One should simply try to understand that the splendor of the sun, the splendor of the moon, and the splendor of electricity or fire are coming from the Supreme Personality of Godhead. In such a conception of life, the beginning of Krishna consciousness, lies a great deal of advancement for the conditioned soul in this material world. The living entities are essentially the parts of this material world. The living entities are essentially the parts and parcels of the Supreme Lord, and He is giving herewith the hint how they can come back to Godhead, back to home. From this verse, we can understand that the sun is illuminating the whole solar system. There are different universes and solar systems, and there are different suns, moons, and planets also. But in each universe, there is only one sun. As stated in Bhagavad-Gita 10:21, the moon is one of the stars. Nakshatranam aham shashi. Sunlight is due to the spiritual effulgence in the spiritual sky of the Supreme Lord. With the rise of the sun, the activities of human beings are set up. They set fire to prepare their food, they set fire to start the factories, etc. So many things are done with the help of fire. Therefore, sunrise, fire, and moonlight are so pleasing to the living entities. Without their help, no living entity can live. So if one can understand that the light and the splendor of the sun, moon, and fire are emanating from the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Krishna, then one's Krishna consciousness will begin. By the moonshine, all the vegetables are nourished. The moonshine is so pleasing that people can easily understand that they are living by the mercy of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Krishna. Without His mercy, there cannot be sun. Without His mercy, there cannot be moon. And without His mercy, there cannot be fire. And without the help of sun, moon, and fire, no one can live. These are some thoughts to provoke Krishna consciousness in the conditioned soul. Om Ajnanatimirandasya Yananjana Shalakaya Chakshurun Militam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Shri Chaitanya Manobishtam Staptitam Yena Bhutale Svayam Rupa Kadamayam Dadati Svapadantikam Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Yutapada Kamalam Shri Gurun Vaishnavamscha Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Sahagana Raghunatan Vitam Tam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadutam Parijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padan Sahagana Lalita Shri Vishakan Vitamscha E Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dina Bandhu Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostute Tapta Kanchana Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavanishvari Vrishabhanusute Devi Pranamami Hari Priye Vanchakalpatarubhyascha Kripa Sindhubhya evacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shri Vasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare Nama Vishnu Padaya Krishna Pashtai Bhutale Srimati Bhakti Vedanta Swami Nitinamine Namaste Saraswati Devi Gauravani Pricharine Nirvishesh Shunyavadi Paschatya Deshatarine. So I read verse one more time. The splendor of the sun, which dissipates the darkness of this whole world, comes from me. And the splendor of the moon and the splendor of the fire are also from me. Hare Krishna again. So this 15th chapter starts with a kind of a metaphor, with a tree which has roots up and branches down. So Prabhupada is asking, what kind of tree is that? Where have we seen such a tree with roots up, branches down? So this tree is a kind of an illustration of a map. It's like a drawing of a map to facilitate our understanding of this whole existence, material and spiritual. So Prabhupada says in a purport that there is no experience of such a tree actually. Roots up, branches down. But then he corrects himself and says that there is actually such a tree, and it is in a reflection. When something, water for example, or anything reflects, like this cup is reflected here, so the lid is down and the bottom of the cup is up. So it's in the reflection. So then the chapter goes to explaining that the actual thing is how to understand this reflection, that we have to get out of that reflection and search for the real source, the source of that reflection, the real object. So in this chapter, the task is given, the puzzle is given, means we have to get from the reflected portion to the original portion. Then there is also a tip is given, how to do it. So it's said that you have to cut it by the weapon of detachment. And then there is a difficulty also given. So the puzzle is to get out, the tip is to cut, and then there is a difficulty. And the difficulty is that that reflection is situated on a reservoir of water. And that water is based on a desire. So that reflection, which resembles material world, is situated on our desire. So how can you cut something what you desire to maintain? So that is the difficulty. So then the whole thing is explained further, and how the reflection is actually has no existence on its own. Like even in this verse we see that even the most essential things like sun, moon and fire doesn't have existence on their own. They are a reflection, the splendor, a the energy, the tejas, the power of the Supreme Lord. It comes from power of the Supreme Lord. And that we can understand that the desire to be situated in that reflection, to enjoy the reflection, is very inadequate. It's very actually ridiculous. Like when you see there was some devotees, they were traveling the world and with a Harinam party. So they went one time to Fiji. So they said, oh, it was so interesting. The mango trees were growing and all the mangoes were falling. No one was taking, one mango was growing near the lake, and in the lake all the mango fruits were floating in the water. So such a mango tree is growing near the lake, and the reflection is in the water. So if you go in the water, how many mangoes you can pick from reflection? You cannot pick any mangoes from reflection. So that brings frustration. The person can be so bewildered trying to pick the mangoes from reflection, but there is no result. Only so much effort. So Srila Prabhupada confirms this in a Srimad Bhagavatam purport of one of the purports of Canto 1. Srila Prabhupada says, being the reflection of the Lord, the existence of the living entity is dependent on the Supreme Lord, who is the original light. So here is a reflection, is like a reflection of the light. There is original light, and then there is a mirror. So the Lord is the original light, and the living entity is compared here as a reflection. This material energy may be compared to darkness, as actually it is darkness. And the activities of the living entities in the darkness are reflections of the original light. So then from that we can understand that in that real object, in the spiritual world, everything is actual. The activities of living entities there are actual. And here is reflected. And not just reflected, it's upside down. The highest thing in the spiritual world is the lowest here. And like that. So, it is a kind of arrogance of jiva to be in this material world. And although jiva is so arrogant and constantly displays the desire to be independent, Krishna still patiently waits and follows. Krishna supplies all these things what we need here, like it said, sun, moon, electricity, fire, even the earth to walk on, the air to breathe. These are just bare necessities. What to speak when we mention mangoes? Why would Krishna give mangoes to prisoners who are here assembled? But Krishna does it. Not just that. Krishna comes together with us in this material world. That's how kind he is. Whether Jiva enters the body of a king, Krishna also, if a Jiva enters the body of a king, Krishna comes in and resides also in the body of the king. And if Jiva enters in the body of the hog, Krishna enters also in that same body. Not just he enters there, in the future verses we will see Krishna provides the remembrance, Krishna provides the knowledge, and if desired, he also provides forgetfulness. Krishna gives everything is needed here for Jiva to enjoy. So some living entities, they don't realize, actually most don't realize where things come from. They don't realize the context of everything. The living entity in a lower consciousness, they only act upon the call of their senses. Whatever senses request, they do. For example, animals, or also less developed human beings. They're only interested how to satisfy their gross senses. For example, from one senior devotee I heard very interesting analogy to describe this. Like a newborn baby, what does he know? What does a newborn baby needs? Only he wants to suck the milk. Only milk will satisfy him. He does not even realize that there is a mother, there is someone. He does not maybe even realize what a breast is. He only wants that the milk drips in his mouth and satisfies his tongue and a belly. So that is the consciousness of just baby. Actually, babies don't even see properly when they are just born. So they only can taste with the tongue that milk. So then later, he starts realizing that there is some form, some breast. Later on, when a consciousness is a little more developed, the baby starts realizing that behind that breast, there is also some sweet voice and a smiling face. So then the baby starts to develop attachment to that body of the mother. Farther on, when the baby's consciousness is developing, he realizes, oh, behind the mother, there is also some other person with more grave voice and doing things. And then when the child already has sufficient intelligence, he understands, that is a father. Then he understands the proper position of the father. He is a maintainer and he's in control. And he loves me and I love him. So in that similar situation is also Jiva. In a very primitive state, Jiva will only follow the senses of the body. Then later on they will notice, there is a sun, there is a earth, there is a nature. And then we see what's in the world, they start thinking, save the earth, be vegan, be organic, only eat organic. Yes, and they will fight for the clean environment, no pollution, and human rights maybe, or not kill or torture animals. Like in some of the countries I've seen, there are like range-free meat or range-free eggs, which means that animal before slaughter was not being kept in a tight room. The animal has been allowed to roam around the field and then killed, as if such a difference is there. But some thoughts of a little bit, some more subtle thing develops. So it's like a baby when he starts noticing that smiling face and sweet words of a mother. So the jiva develops the consciousness has developed to see all these things. And it might sound nice. It might sound nice, but really the essence of it is still so much self-consciousness, and the center is just self. Even if we want to save the earth and make a clean environment. So then, for these type of people who are so much attached to matter, to the material elements around us, but they cannot yet appreciate the God or some kind of transcendental form of the Lord. But they just recognize the mother. So they are just due to be introduced to the Father. So for these type of people, this verse is spoken. Krishna is saying, that sun, what you like so much, comes from me. That fire, that electricity, that moon, what you are so dependent on, comes from me. And then the jiva can start thinking, oh, there can be something higher than what I just perceive with my eyes. So then into picture comes Virat Rupa, the cosmic manifestation, the form which Krishna has manifested, which is not actually real, it's not even counted amongst any kind of avatars of Krishna, because it's just a matter, it's material form, to facilitate advancement of people who cannot see, who does not have sufficient intelligence yet to understand the transcendental form of the Lord. So Srila Prabhupada says, the Virat Rupa is conceived for those who are just neophyte worshippers. For them, the material Virat Rupa is presented. In the Virat Rupa, the material manifestations of different planets have been conceived as his legs, hands, etc. Actually, all such descriptions are for the neophytes. The neophytes cannot conceive of anything beyond matter. So also Srila Prabhupada said that for those who have a demoniac vision, this Virat Rupa is also very useful, because they only believe their eyes. So they will only see, show me. So then we can say, taste water, that Krishna. Then you can see the eyes and the moon are the sun and the moon are Krishna's eyes, the rivers are Krishna's veins, the clouds are God's hair. And these type of people who are so much self-centered and what I see, what I understand with logic, that these type of people very much appreciate. They will say, oh, it's such a high concept. So then another category of people who could be interested in Virat Rupa are impersonalists, because they have no capacity to accept the Sachit Ananda Vigraha, the Lord's form. So Srila Prabhupada compassionately actually writes about them. He actually says how everyone should start at any moment, everyone must start developing some relationship with Lord. So this Virat Rupa is very little humble beginning of that. So Prabhupada writes, the real purpose of life is to make contact with the Lord and be engaged in His service. That is the real purpose of life. That is the natural position of living entities. But those who are impersonalists and are unable to render any loving service to the Lord have been advised to meditate upon His impersonal feature, the Virat Rupa, or universal form. Some way or other, one must try to re-establish one's forgotten relation with the Lord if one at all desires to gain real happiness in life, and to reclaim his natural, unfettered condition. For the less intelligent beginners, the meditation of the impersonal feature, the Virat Rupa or universal form of the Lord, will gradually qualify one to rise to the personal contact. So it is said that this type of meditation is very helpful. It will help to rise one to the platform of devotional service, to some kind of personal contact with Krishna. So we can see how Krishna has devised so many methods to attract different jivas from different hooks and from different corners of life to him. So, but as I said, this Virat Rupa is not actual Rupa of Krishna. It's not actual form of Krishna. So we can understand from this that Krishna's dealings are not ordinary. It's not like ours. But everything at the same time is Krishna's creation. And Prabhupada writes, one should not expect the Lord to create like a blacksmith with a hammer and other instruments. So Krishna is not type of worker like we used to see. The Lord creates by his potencies. He has his multifarious potencies. Just as a small seed of banyan fruit has the potency to create a big banyan tree. So these all elements, these energies, what we see in this material world are described as Krishna's vibhutis, Krishna's opulences. So that's how far material world goes. And Prabhupada says that no one can make a solution of the darkness of ignorance simply by the reflection of light. Similarly, no one can come out of material existence simply by the reflected light of the common man. One has to receive the light from the original light itself. Therefore, one has to take shelter of the light of the Lord. So when the room is dark and you put a mirror, it doesn't light up the room. You actually have to let the sun in. So the real solution is actually receiving the light from the real source of light, which is the Lord. So it was advised to us in the beginning of this chapter, as we already mentioned, to cut this tree, to detach ourselves from the tree. So one who understands the actual position, the actual situation of this material world, that it's just a reflection of the Lord, has more chance to get detached, is more ready for it. If we understand that these mangoes in reflection is not for picking, we can't pick them, then we forget the idea of that. We forget the idea of those mangoes. So then we have a chance to enter the higher realms of existence. Some persons may think that attaining higher planets in this material world, like heavenly planets, that could also solve some of the problem. Because really the firm desire of the jiva who is entrapped in this material world is to enjoy, to be the Lord. And a heavenly planet offers that kind of option. You can enjoy better, you can live longer. So it can make you feel that you are a kind of controller or God. But for a devotee, it seems just as phantasmagoria. So sometimes even in this planet, what to speak of higher planets, people try to make so many arrangements to feel like gods and controllers. Like we see here in a simple village, people live simple life and they have very peaceful mind. Whatever comes they accept, whatever goes they let it go. There is no hankering, there is no lamentation. But in a more so-called advanced places, they call it, these kind of more degraded people call themselves advanced just to cover up their failure. They try to make different arrangements to look like gods. But deep in their heart, they know that they never succeeded. They make a show with many arrangements and adjustments of improvement. So somehow they think they're getting there, but deep in their heart they know they are not. So for example, in some big city, or especially in the Western countries, they like to do it. They mop the floor in some public area, and then they put a sign, the floor is slippery. So then when nobody slipped on the floor, they thought, yes, because of our sign, nobody slipped on the floor. We devised the means how to avoid slipping. So they in their mind start thinking that how much they can control. That if we put a sign, no one will slip. So in that way, they bewilder themselves, but they are not happy, because deep inside their heart they know, somewhere in their heart they know that it's not the way. It's not what, it's basically cheating. So this type of heavenly planets is also a kind of cheating, the place for cheated, who want to enjoy in a quick way. So quickly they got there, and then they live longer lives, and they make themselves believe that they are closer of a status of God. But then, after time, the garland withers, the tear drops, and they end up again in this mrityuloka, eaten by the worms in a womb of any kind of species of a mother. So, this is a situation in the material world, and it's the same in whatever up and down level you go. Even in the planet of Brahma, there is a beginning and the end. And some wise people understand it, and they reject this thing. They think we don't want it. We want to escape this samsara. They have some greater intelligence. They've observed the things. They understand the nature of reflection, and they don't want to be part of it. But because they have not received the light of the real source, they only can speak about not this, not that. They only can speak about what is it not. And because they have not received the light of the real source, they don't know what is. So there is no solution really for them. So nothing remains for these type of thinkers except the spiritual suicide of the soul, the merging of a Brahman, which is not even permanent. So Srila Prabhupada writes in the purport of Srimad Bhagavatam, 2nd canto, they require factual light from the Lord to see Him directly, just as the sun can be seen only by the direct light of the sun. No lamp or man-made torchlight, however powerful it may be, can help one see the sun. The sun reveals itself. So if at night we are going around with torchlight looking for the sun, we cannot find the sun. Only when in the morning sun rises, that when we can see the sun. So Prabhupada said the sun reveals itself. So we need the light from the real source. And Krishna knows that. So also representatives of Krishna can give that light because they carry that light. Whoever has received that light can carry the light and give it to others. Basically, what you have, you can give. You cannot give what you don't have. So these type of great saints from the beginning of creation, they travel the universe for the purpose to elevate jiva, to initiate the cult of bhakti in the lives of jiva, to elevate them in a higher consciousness, the higher realm of existence, to give them some process to reach these places where actually jiva belong to. So these type of processes, these type of, we call it sadhana, are not meant to degrade oneself or just to attain a little bit higher status, like we just mentioned, as heavenly planets. Like a person is not going to study in a university and spend years and years and so much money just to afterwards ride rickshaw. Yeah, and earn a little bit of money. No, he has a big ambitions in his life. I will become such a big man. I will become this big man, that big man. So a person who takes up this elevated process of sadhana bhakti is also aspiring for very high level of attaining the actually realm of Vaikuntha, where there is no anxiety. That place is above darkness. That place is a light itself, and there is no requirement of sun and a moon and electricity. Actually, this sun and moon and electricity are reflecting light of that realm where the actually jiva belongs to. That realm is self-effulgent, so it means it's self-dependent, it's independent. So that means that the mangoes there are real. You can actually pick them there. So Prabhupada writes in another purport of Bhagavatam, he says, the primary information of the kingdom of God informs us that there is no need of sun, moon or electricity, which are all necessary for this material world, the world of darkness. And the secondary information of the kingdom of God explains that anyone able to reach that kingdom by adopting of the civilization of the soul proper, or in other words, by the method of bhakti-yoga, attains the highest perfection of life. One is then situated in the permanent existence of the soul with full knowledge of transcendental loving service for the Lord. So we have two information we can get of spiritual world. One, it's a self-effulgent. There is no dependence of moon, sun, electricity. And the secondary information is that by application of bhakti yoga, that realm can be reached. And here, in this purport, Srila Prabhupada calls bhakti yoga, or a devotional service, he calls it the civilization of the soul. So the bhakti yoga is the actual civilization of the soul. And the person who is the head of this universe, Lord Brahma, he himself glorifies that realm. And he declares that his worshipable object is Lord Govinda. The realm of Vaikuntha has also different levels. There are innumerable Vaikuntha planets, as we know, with four-armed Narayan. Then there are two-armed forms of personality of Godhead. And the topmost of all is Goloka Vrindavan, where the Lord Govinda lives. And from that Govinda, everything has manifested. And that place, Goloka Vrindavan, is a fully perfect place. And there is nothing above that. So Srila Prabhupada speaks in a lecture. So Krishna is source of everything. One who has understood this fact, that God is the origin of all emanations, one who has understood this fact very nicely, scientifically, then by loving God, you love everything. One must be very well versed and at the same time completely absorbed in a spiritual emotion, bhava. This bhava is the very highest platform for coming to perfection of life. So he combines these two things. One should be very well versed, and one should have this intense spiritual emotion. So Krishna is the source of everything, the spiritual world as well as the material world. And the great personalities like Narada, Vyasa, Devala, they worship Govinda. Govinda is in their minds. They think of him. Lord Brahma sings Govinda Madi Purusham. Even Shankaracharya, who is the head of Mayavadi school, worships Govinda. So Govinda is in the minds of everybody. But what does Govinda think of? What is in the mind of Govinda? So I wanted to read you a few verses. What does he think of? Sorry. He says, Krishna, Shyam Sundar, our Shyam Sundar says, O Vrindavan, at every moment, the transcendental beauty and pastimes of Sri Radha attain the highest limit of supreme wonder, and currents of transcendental ecstasy flow wonderfully through my body. It is undoubtedly due to your great influence. Then he says, O Vrindavan, I personally massage Sri Radha's feet. After sending off the gopis, I often gently embrace her in great ecstatic love. Now, the lotus feet of that sublime, effulgent Sri Radha step all over your forest. He says, O Vrindavan, once my beloved, Sri Radha, desired to have some beautiful flowers from tall trees in your forest. And Radha said, O sinless trees, please bend down, that for my pleasure, that I can pick your flowers. And Krishna says, I deceitfully forbade those trees to bend down, but still they bent for the pleasure of my beloved. And that increased my pleasure unlimitedly. So Krishna, even his order is disobeyed because the Radharani's pleasure is increased. That increases his pleasure unlimitedly. So here Krishna is actually admitting what is, like we hear, the sun shines because it reflects Krishna's light. And Krishna here says what shines in his heart. Krishna says, the beauty of Sri Radha's hair is reflected in the beauty of the peacock feather. I can see the marks of her kumkum on the faces of black bumblebees. Her moon-like smiling face resembles the golden lotus flower. The corners of her eyes are birthplace of the deer's agitated eye movements and nectarian bliss. Her beautiful nose shines like a sesame flower. Her lips shine like crimson flowers. Her beautiful teeth shine like jasmine flowers. Her smiling face shines like white lotus flower. Her unique body shines like a creeper. Her attractive breasts shine like flower buds, and her arms shine like lotus stems. Her broad hips shine like wide river banks. Her soft thighs shine like banana trees. Her red lotus hands shine like beautiful red lotus flowers. O forest of Vrindavan, my beloved Sri Radha resides within you, and her enchanting form shines within my heart. So now we know what is in the heart of the person who is in the heart of everybody. So that's what Govinda says for himself, about himself. So the author of this book mercifully urges everybody. He says, "Oh friend, by great fortune you have attained this body, where you have heard Vrindavan's wonderful glories and learned that everything in this world is like a dream. Don't put any faith in the mind and body. Run to Vrindavan." This is our advice today. So that makes us very serious to cut down the tree. So instead of enjoying Krishna's energy, the sun, the moon, the electricity, the fire, or whatever we see around, we should be very, very eager to give enjoyment to Krishna. We should be very serious to develop that urge to cut that tree and serve Krishna. to serve Shyam Sundar here in Vrindavan. Actually, Srila Prabhupada writes in the Bhagavad-Gita, he says, there are hundreds and thousands of Vishnus, but for a devotee, no form of Krishna is important, but the original form of two-handed Shyam Sundar. So, throughout these texts, we've been advised to cut down. By what? By the weapon of detachment. But bhakti yoga is not the process of detachment. The bhakti yoga is the process of attachment. So when we get a weapon of attachment, that cutting down automatically happens. And just to end on a positive and very sweet note, I wanted to read, it's a little long, but for me it seems so much nectar. It is from Srila Prabhupada's writing in Chaitanya Charitamrita. And it gives me immense inspiration and strength. So I wanted to share it with you also. And it is so much befitting us not to sharpen weapon of detachment, but how to sharpen the weapon of attachment. Srila Prabhupada writes in Chaitanya Charitamrita Adi Lila, very beginning of Chaitanya Charitamrita, he writes, one who has not been attracted by the transcendental beauty of rasa will certainly be dragged down into material attraction. Thus, to act in a material contamination and progress to the darkest region of hellish life. But by understanding the conjugal love of Radha and Krishna, one is freed from the grip of attraction to material so-called love between man and a woman. Similarly, one who understands the pure parental love of Nanda and Yashoda will be saved from being dragged into material parental affection. If one accepts Krishna as the supreme friend, the attraction of material friendship will be finished for him, and he will not be dismayed by so-called friendship with mundane wranglers. If he is attracted by servitorship to Krishna, he will no longer have to serve the material body in the degraded status of material existence with the false hope of becoming master in a future. Similarly, one who sees the greatness of Krishna in neutrality will certainly never again seek the so-called relief of impersonal or voidist philosophy. If one is not attracted by the transcendental nature of Krishna, one is sure to be attracted to material enjoyment. Thus, to become implicated in the clinging network of virtuous and sinful activities, and to continue material existence by transmigrating from one material body to another. Only in Krishna consciousness can one achieve the highest perfection of life. Hare Krishna. If there are any comments or corrections, please. Hare Krishna. Hare Krishna. Hare Krishna. Sorry?
Krishna is the source of everything. So just like we devotee retaining Krishna consciousness, this is the source that Krishna has put us in the Krishna consciousness. This is his source that he has brought us here.
Yes, by the mercy of his representative, as we mentioned in a class also, there are Krishna sending his representative to this material world to reclaim these jivas. So, by the mercy of the representative, but ultimately, yes, representative is Krishna's representative, so that's a source.
This is a positive way, and in negative way, then what is the source? Just like he sends his representative
Yeah. Krishna also says that he is a source of forgetfulness in Bhagavad-Gita 15:15. Apohanam cha. Also, I'm a forgetfulness. So if somebody wants to forget Krishna, Krishna will facilitate that.
Whatever is done, everything done by Krishna.
Yeah, actually, in that book, Perfect Questions, Perfect Answers, there is question to Srila Prabhupada. And so, if someone is rascal, is it also source, because Krishna is a source? And the Prabhupada said, yes, if there is no rascaldom in Krishna, there wouldn't be rascaldom in you or anyone. So he said, Krishna is the greatest of the rascals. And then to that new person, he gives even an example how Krishna is a rascal. He says, Radharani is passing on a road and Krishna comes to her and by her braid he pulls her down and kisses her. So that's what is written in Perfect Questions, Perfect Answers. Hare Krishna. Anything else? You want? No? No? Okay, Hare Krishna, Granth Raj, Bhagavad Gita ki jai, Srila Prabhupada ki jai.